No, you
And of course, they start barking right now. Good evening, Brownsville educators, BISD, and Brownsville, our community. This is Veronica Borrego, your president from AOBE. And next to me, I have Miss Aida Abeldaño, our TSTA staff. Um, I apologize. They decided to start barking now. I promise they were quiet earlier, but they are not in agreement that their mother is going live. So
yes, they
we're going
always
to get
know
through
when.
this. Miss Ida, I am going to give you the floor while I get something ready.
Oh, thank you. Well, we are so excited today that we're going to have two amazing ladies on the show today. It's awesome that they are making time to address our viewers and our members. And we're hoping to be able to get a better feel for where they stand on different issues. So we're so excited to be able to talk to them, to get to know them a little bit better, give an opportunity for our viewers to be more informed on some of these issues, and most importantly, that they get out and vote. It is a runoff election. People tend to think they don't have to go and vote, but every election is very important. And here at AOBE, we try to do our best to inform our members with what's going on, what are the different races that are going on, and why it's important to take action and to take your family to go vote, take your neighbors, take everybody that you possibly can to go and vote, because that's your voice. That's your right to be able to speak up to these elected officials, because you voted them in or you voted them out, and that is your responsibility to be able to hold them accountable to their position that they hold. So I'm excited. I think both of these ladies are amazing ladies. I think when they're able to make a decision to run for a public office, it's never easy. It's never easy. They you get scrutinized every which way, no matter what you do, positive or negative. It can get construed into so many different ways. So I admire their dedication to serve and to be able to put themselves through this, because I know not just anybody can do it. It's very easy to judge and criticize from the sidelines, but it takes a lot for someone to step up and put their name on that dotted line and say, hey, you know what, I want to run, I'm going to put myself out there. When all these different things can happen, and politics can be very brutal and stuff. So I admire their bravery and their commitment to serve. So I'm excited to get to know these ladies a little bit better and see where they stand on some of the educational issues and concerns that we have. So hopefully we'll get some good questions going on. Like I said, it's a very important race, District 27, which runs from the Brownsville area all the way across the valley up into a little bit of FAR, the entrance of FAR. So it includes San Juan, it includes Alamo, Donna, La Feria. All these people need to get out there and get informed and get out there and vote. So we hope that they take action. So I don't know if you want to maybe just start to bring on the ladies, and so you can go over just the brief rules. It's going to be very simple. It's going to be we, as always, we have tremendous respect here on the show. We treat everybody with respect, and we wouldn't expect anything less from our audience. So we're going to keep it professional. We're going to keep it on issues that impact us and what's important to us, and how we feel that that these ladies can make a difference for public education. So were you able to bring up the screen? Were you able to find the
I
just
have
the
the forum guidelines. I'm not going to bring them up. I'll just read them. So let me
okay.
bring up the ladies. And That way we can go ahead and have them on the screen. Good evening, Ms. Morgan Lamantia and Ms. Sarah Stapleton Barrera. I am going to read the forum guidelines and then we will begin. So each
and we want to always like get right into it and stuff so we can make the most of our time. We don't beat around the bush, but we just want to be able to we know your time is very valuable. We appreciate both of you making time for our members and our viewers. And we want to try to get in as many questions as we possibly can tonight. And like I said, so the viewers can get a good feel for where you stand on the different issues and different things that are on their minds.
Okay. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to introduce themselves. Questions were submitted from AOBE members and TSTA members from areas in District 27. We will be drawing names on which candidate will answer the first question, and then after that we will be alternating. The first candidate will have 2 minutes to answer, and then the second candidate will have 2 minutes to answer as soon as the other one is finished. We will give one question from the audience after every third question from our list, and I will be screening the questions to make sure they are appropriate, proper, and professional. And then each candidate will have 2 minutes for closing comments. Our main goal for this forum is to give our viewers an opportunity to get to know both candidates and to make the best informed decision so they can go vote. All right. So
before they introduce themselves, we are going to go ahead and draw the names so we can see who will have the first question. And then we, like you mentioned, we're going to alternate after that. So here is where we typed up both names. We're being as transparent as possible and as fair as possible, okay? So this is our high-tech drawing here. So I'm just going to fold them.
Very high-tech, Ida.
Very high-tech, you see? There we go.
Don't break that computer.
I know. Yeah, because it would have frozen. If we would have done it electronically, I can guarantee you it would have frozen. So here we go. Drum roll.
Shake it.
The first question goes to Ms. Morgan Lamantia. So she will answer first, and then they will be alternating every question after that. Okay. So
Ida, you'll be taking time?
I'm sorry?
You'll be taking time, right?
Yes, I will be taking time. And when we are up to 10 seconds left on the clock, just to give you a warning.
More high tech, guys.
Here we go. More high tech stuff. 10 seconds. Okay. Is it backwards on the screen, right? It's 0, 1.
No, it's good. You're good.
Okay. So, okay.
All right. So we are going to begin, I guess, with the first one that was drawn for the introduction as well. So we are going to give Ms. Lamantia her 2 minutes for introduction. Let me go ahead and adjust my screen. Okay, doesn't want to. Hold on. Okay, Ida.
I don't know. That's not me.
There we go. All right.
No, not me.
All right.
There we go.
Very good. Okay. Are you ready to start the timer, Ms. Ida?
Yes.
Okay. Let her know when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Morgan Lamantia, and first I want to say thank you so much, AOBE, for giving us this opportunity to talk to everyone in your organization and everyone throughout this community. And thank you especially for doing this during Teacher Appreciation Week. This time we appreciate y'all, so thank you guys for everything and for this chance and for your time during this week. So my grandfather came down to the Valley. It was the first my family come down here, and he was a first-generation American. And as he was working here in the Valley and he built his business, he made a lot of sacrifices so that the next generation of our family could have the education that he wasn't able to have. And that's something that's similar across the Valley. Each generation is always trying to make sacrifices and do what they can to fight to make sure that their next generation, that their kids and their grandkids have everything that they didn't and have every opportunity to succeed. And I was able to benefit from those sacrifices and go to business school and then law school and be able to come back down to the Valley and work for a firm here. And from that firm, I decided to start working for my family, to be that next generation of leadership, to continue that legacy and to fight not just for our next generation of my family, but also for the next generation of this entire community, so that this community can continue to grow and build, so that we have something to fight for our public education and our teachers and our educators, to fight for our healthcare, to make sure it's accessible and affordable and quality care, and to make job creation a priority, because this district has so much potential. And this community is going to have the next generation of leaders, not just for South Texas, not just for District 27, but for the entire state and the nation, because we are doing amazing things here in our district, and we continue to grow and evolve. And we just need more support at the state level, more funding for our schools, and funding for our communities. And we know that in South Texas, if you give us the opportunity, we'll show you what we can do. So thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and switch out the screen and have Ms. Sarah Stapleton Barrera. Ida, let her know when you're ready. You have 2 minutes.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you guys so much for having me. Happy Teacher Appreciation. You know, a little bit about my background. First of all, I'm born and raised here in Brownsville, and I'm an attorney. I practice mostly indigent defense and help people that don't have money, and I love it. But about 15 years ago or so, I went into the field of teaching. My mom's a teacher and my sister's a teacher. So I thought, hey, this is something that I should come by naturally, right? I was very, very wrong. I learned in this period of teaching that it is the hardest job I had ever had. And I've had a lot of jobs, from, you know, fast food to telemarketing, and the list goes on. But I learned through this experience that I mean, it's preaching to the choir when I say teachers are overworked and underpaid. And I remember times when coming home from that teaching job and being very afraid. I'm very afraid that I couldn't pay my light bill and my cell phone bill and my rent in the studio apartment that I was living in. And I realized from that experience that this is our professional class, and these are the people that are guiding our generations to come. And the fact that teachers have to go into their classroom and be preoccupied because they're worried about their bills, or they're worried about getting ill and not having the correct health care to go to the doctor, and to have these preoccupations that they're having to live with on the day-to-day, then we're treating our professional class as if they're less. And I have been fighting since 2019, yelling and screaming and writing letters to Governor Abbott to raise teacher pay and to give our teachers what they deserve. And that's what I intend to continue to do with your support. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I'm putting myself on the screen now. All right. So that is our introductions. We are going to go ahead and move straight into our questions. As Ida said, we want to respect everybody's time and give as much time to this as possible. So I'm going to bring Ms. Morgan Lamantia. She was the one that was drawn to participate first as in the question. And then the next question will alternate, and we'll begin with Sarah Stapleton, and we'll keep alternating back and forth.
Now, remember, after Ms. Morgan Lamantia answers, then this Ms. Sarah Stapleton will have an opportunity, also 2 minutes, and the same thing goes on for the next question. So
Yes.
Each one will have an opportunity on the same question.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Ms. Lamantia back on. And I will read the question. I will repeat the question for you, Ms. Stapleton, when you are on the screen, because I know I would forget it. So, all right. The question is, and this question is coming from Donna. Please explain to the audience, if elected, what your role would be as Senator of District 27, and what exactly can your constituents request of your office?
So my role would be a representative of this community, of this district, for those who voted, for those who didn't vote, for everyone who lives in this district and throughout these 8 counties. My role would be a voice for everyone in this community to make sure that we get what we need down here in South Texas, from the Coastal Bend to the Rio Grande Valley. That includes infrastructure, that includes funding for our public educators and our education system. That includes our healthcare and fighting for the funds that we need here, and fighting for every resource available, and making sure that everyone is allowed to live with dignity and respectfully and get the education that they need and that they deserve to thrive. And what everyone in this community can expect from my office is that I will always have an open door policy for everyone and anyone. Anything that they need, they can always call, and we can always talk about the issues. The other thing I can promise is that I will always be honest. I will always explain my decisions and talk through and answer any questions anyone may have. But most importantly, we will not always agree on every issue. I will not be 100% agreeable and on point with everybody. However, just because we disagree on an issue one day, I hope the next day you'll pick up the phone and call me, and we can agree and start fighting for that next topic. So that's what I can promise. Open door policy, always being honest, and always looking to help our community in any way possible, especially when it comes to our public education needs. So thank you.
Great. Thank you.
All right. So Ms. Stapleton, I guess, was disconnected.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I tell you, this technology, gotta love it.
So do we go to the next question and then maybe we come back to her for the 2 minutes, or like how do we?
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Yeah, I didn't expect this. Even though I mean, there's so many things that can happen when it's virtual, but overall, it does reach more people. I see a lot of the in-person forums.
She popped back in. I'm going to bring her on.
Okay.
I'm
Awesome.
so sorry. I lost service and I had to run outside.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and bring you back on. And I will, I mean, you're already on. I'm going to bring you on to the big screen. And then I will ask you the question again so you can have your 2 minutes. Okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So question number 1. All right. Please explain to the audience, if elected, what your role would be as Senator of District 27 and what exactly can your constituents request of your office? Ida, let her know when her time is.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I think the real role of a senator, and I think what elected officials forget all too often, is that the role is simply to be a listener and a messenger. I think that if a state senator will just listen to the constituents, figure out what they're needing, what they're wanting, then you're just the mouthpiece. And it shouldn't be somebody that makes decisions for the constituency. It's someone that makes decisions with the constituency. And I feel like that's what we've been lacking for so long, is that our higher ups make these decisions and don't have the word or the advice or the intel from people with the boots on the ground. And then they write legislation that misses these nuances that can either make legislation or break legislation. So break it down to the basics. That's what a senator is. It's a listener, or at least that's what it should be, and that's what I intend to be.
Okay. Thank you.
Right, thank you. So I am going to leave you on the screen because in the alteration you are the next one to answer the question. So the second question is, if elected, how accessible will you be to your constituents?
Yes, I pride myself in passing on these little cards that have my personal cell phone number on there, and the same cell phone that I've had for the past 20 years. And I think that that's a necessity. I've never had that with any of my elected officials, but I would like to. I think the idea of having your state senator's cell phone number programmed in your phone and you can pick them up and call them and say, hey, we have a problem. Put your tennis shoes on and meet us down the road. Or, hey, we have an idea. Or, hey, we have a criticism. Um, that's how accessible I think all elected officials should be. We're here to listen to the people, and if we're not able to give our numbers out, and if you have to jump through a bunch of hoops to talk to your senator, then that's not the right person.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Let me go ahead and bring Ms. Lamantia and give her 2 minutes. Miss Ida, whenever you're ready. Oh, no. Repeat the question. Forgot. If elected, how accessible will you be to your constituents?
So very accessible. I think being accessible to the constituents is one of the most important things we can do as an elected official, because at times when we're in Austin, and sometimes you're in session for 6 months at a time, unless there's extended sessions like there was this last session, they were up there for a very long time. And so having that open communication with our constituents all the time is one of the most important things to do, because while you're away, you're not here, you're not seeing what's going on. And so having that line of communication, having those relationships allows you to get that information right away so that we can start addressing the problem sooner rather than later. And the other thing is that this district contains 8 districts. As senator, you can't be everywhere at every time. So having those relationships across the entire district is going to be one of the most important things so that we understand what the issues are and what are affecting our community members and our families, and what is it right now the most needed and the biggest priority for everyone in the community. The other thing is that, I will not be an expert in every single issue. And so I'm very much going to depend on groups like AOBE to truly understand what's going on with our teachers and what our educators need. And that way, that road can work both ways, so that when a bill comes across our desk that impacts a certain industry, whether that's AOBE or an education or any other industry, we have those relationships with our constituents so that we can pick up the phone and call them. And just like I will make sure to answer every call I receive, and if I'm unable to answer at the time, return that call. I hope I can get the same from our constituents. That way, that when there's an issue that comes up, I can reach out for their opinion, because understanding the impact these laws have on every industry and every aspect of the community that's going to affect is one of the most important things that needs to take priority. And I feel like it hasn't been taking priority coming from Austin. So having that open door policy and always being in contact is something I can definitely promise.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to leave you on the screen as you are next in our rotation. And that question came from AOBE. The next question also comes from AOBE, and it is, if elected, how will you use your office to benefit public education?
So public education is one of the most important aspects of our economy and of our district, of the entire state of Texas. And right now it's under attack by a lot of people in our state government. So being someone to go up to Austin and defend our public education system and fight for our teachers is a priority. What we need to do is we need to make sure that we fully fund our public education, our public schools, because the schools have not been fully funded ever, if not a very long time. And our teachers are being paid almost $7,000 less than the median pay rate for our educators. And that needs to change. And that low pay rate isn't just our educators, it's with our auxiliary staff, our bus drivers, our counselors. And we need them, and we need to treat them and respect them as professionals that they are. So fighting for our public education, fighting for an increase toward the basic allotment, fighting to make sure our teachers, our educators, everyone in our public school system is getting paid what they should be and respected as the professionals that they are. Because during the pandemic, when schools shut down, it highlighted how important our education system is, how important our public schools are, and how much we need them to continue to thrive, not just for our futures and the future of our kids and the next generation, but for our economy. Because the pandemic shut down a lot of businesses and had people working from home. But as schools shut down, parents had to stay home as well because they didn't have anywhere for their kids to go, and they weren't able to go to school. So having our school system is incredibly important on so many levels. And with our teacher shortages that we're going through right now, it's coming to a head. And we need to stop attacking and micromanaging our educators. Let them do what they were taught to do. Let them do what they're good at, and educate our kids and teach them about critical thinking. So I hope to be a fighter for our public education system and our educators.
Thank you.
Mm.
I'm going to bring on Miss Sarah Stapleton. All right, and you're going to have a few minutes. Let me repeat the question. See, I can't even remember to repeat the question. Oh, you can. If elected, how will you use your office to benefit public education?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, look, the office has to be open at all times. I've heard horror stories about teachers trying to get into the office to see our state senator and having to wait 6 months for an appointment, and then, the senator not showing up. I mean, that is not how it's supposed to work, right? That's a nightmare. Office doors have to be open. And when it comes to crafting legislation, a senator who is not an educator, and I don't consider myself an educator because it was over 15 years ago, should not be crafting legislation on behalf of the teachers. The teachers have got to be crafting it with their state senator. And that we haven't had. I mean, if we could have a committee of teachers sitting at a round table and hashing it out and figuring out what will work and what will not work, is the only way to do it, because they know the practicalities. They know that, these extra 30 hours and these extra programs that are unfunded and, take 180 hours when I'm supposed to take 80 hours. I mean, you guys know that none of that stuff is working. But we have these people in these positions that just assume that they know what's best. And it's just simply not the case. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of teachers, and there's not one teacher that I've run across that says everything's great, it's excellent, the system is working, and all these extra courses are working, and the pay is where we need it to be. It's just not the case. But in the real world, in other fields, people are satisfied because they're treated with the dignity that they deserve. And for years, our teachers have been thrown under the bus, and I will prove to be a champion for you because I have been there and I know how hard it was. And you are the guys that are teaching our kids, and if there's anybody in this world that deserves higher pay and a seat at the table, it's you.
Time. Sorry, my mic was off. Sorry.
All right. Okay. So this is going to be, the next question is going to be from the audience, and I will be leaving you on, Ms. Barrera, Ms. Stapleton, since you are the next one in the rotation. And the question is from Nelda Rocha. What are your top 2 issues that you feel need to be addressed once you get into office?
Yeah, I mean, teacher pay is number one. I think that, ever since 2019, I've been screaming at Abbott to minimally raise new teacher pay to $60,000 and a higher scheduled rate for the more senior teachers. As it stands, here in Texas, our teachers are paid, $7,000 less than the rest of the nation. And even just as unsettling, our students are allotted $4,000 less per child. I mean, if that's not a slap in the face to say, hey, well, this is what should work here in Texas, then I don't know.
It froze.
All right.
Hopefully, well, she still has time to unfreeze. So,
Okay. How much time did she have left? I guess
she had a minute left.
Okay. We can just save that, and I will bring Ms. Lamantia on. All right. And it's the same question, of course, Ms. Lamantia. What are your top 2 issues that you feel need to be addressed once you get into office?
So I think the top 2, first one, we've got to fully fund our public schools, and we have to use those funds to also make sure that we increase our teacher pay. So we need to increase our teacher pay because we do pay some of the lowest salaries for our educators in the state. And we also need to make sure our schools are fully funded. We have a lot of programs that our schools and our educators would love to see come to fruition. But because of the lack of funding, we are unable to do that. And our educators aren't being paid what they should be paid as professionals. And because our schools aren't fully funded, they don't have the support staff that they need. And with HB 4545 coming down and bringing on so much new paperwork and so many new requirements, that lands on the shoulders of our teachers and our educators and our counselors, because they don't have that support staff to help them with those requirements. And as it stands right now, those requirements are almost impossible to meet, because on top of those new policies and procedures that came down, there were formal requirements still had to be met, and we still need them to teach and educate our kids. And so funding is a key aspect of fixing and amending those problems. But another aspect, the second thing that I think that should become a priority, is expanding Medicare. We need to make sure that healthcare is affordable and is of quality and is accessible. And that's not the case right now, especially at District 27. And that's true not just for those that don't have or can't afford medical care or don't have employer-sponsored medical care, but that's true of their teachers' medical health insurance programs as well, in addition to our TRS care for our retired teachers. And healthcare is a huge aspect that we need to tackle. We need to expand Medicare. We need to look at our retired teachers' healthcare plan and program, and we need to address those higher costs, because we are the ones and our families are the ones that end up suffering for those costs. Thank you.
Great.
All right. Okay. Are we going to give her the minute that was left, Ida, or what are we doing? Are you?
If it's okay with Ms. Lamantia to give her the rest of the minute?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Yes.
I think she's frozen. Are you there, Sarah?
Okay. Then we're going to have to go on.
Yeah.
All
right. I am going to go on to the next question. This next question is from number 4. This question is from the Brownsville local. If elected, are you willing to commit to quarterly meetings with TSTA locals in District 27?
Yes, outside of session, I will commit to, and I have committed in other meetings and other discussions as well, to city hall programs, so where we can meet with the locals, meet with people in different communities, understand what their priorities are. Because like I said earlier, having that open line of communication to really understand the problems and the priorities in each community is going to be imperative to being a good quality representative of this district, so that we can truly represent those issues and those needs. When it comes to quarterly, the only aspect that I would say may hinder that is if we're in the middle of session, we're up in Austin. However, beyond that, I would love to continue having those town halls, continue having those community sessions, so that we can keep having those meetings and keep having that communication. And if we're in Austin and can't come down, I hope we can continue to do it by Zoom, because during the pandemic, we've all seen what a wonderful tool virtual can be, and we can continue to utilize that as we go forward. So in person whenever possible, over Zoom whenever it's in person can't happen. But yes, I would definitely commit to having regular community meetings with our constituents all throughout District 27.
Okay, thank you. Do we have Sarah? It's just a bad connection. I apologize to our viewers. We wanted to try to be as fair as possible and be able to come across to as many people as possible. So that is why we wanted to do the virtual forum. And unfortunately, though, she's having very bad connection.
Can you call her, Ida, and maybe we could just have her over the phone instead of
let me see.
Are you okay with that, Ms. Lamantia?
Yes, of course.
Okay. That way we don't, I mean, it seems like she has really bad connection. And
let me see. And what we're going to have to do is I'm going to have to turn over the fancy time clock to you.
Oh, yes.
So let me see.
Wait, that's all we are is fancy. That's it.
That's it.
All right. You're going to have to remind me to start it, though, girl, because I can't even remember to repeat the questions.
I know.
It's been a long day.
Let me see.
And we're testing next week, so. Jello. Well, anyway, while we're waiting, I am going to say happy Teachers Appreciation to everybody. I know this week has been pretty stressful. Today, 8th graders started testing EOCs. That will continue through this week. And then next week, of course, we have STAR and EOC testing. So I know we're all stressed out, but we're almost there. One of my friends on Facebook said we have 3 more Mondays. You know how little ones say, how many more sleeps do I have? Well, for us, it's we have 3 more Mondays, right? And so looking forward to the end of the year and being able to rest. I will not be working anything past the last day of school.
Okay. So I think we got her. I have her on speaker. So I'm going to put it up next to the mic. And again, you know, this is what happens, technical difficulties, but we're going to continue to try to have the show go on as possible, as much as we can. So we're going to try it this way.
Okay.
So, Ms. Sarah, can you hear when they speak?
I can hear you. I cannot hear when they're speaking, but if you just feed me the question, then I'll just answer.
Can you all hear her talking though?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. That'll go ahead and try reading the question, see if she can hear you.
Okay. What are your top 2 issues that you feel need to be addressed once you get into office?
Okay, good. Yes, this is where I was starting earlier, and I think we got cut off. So obviously, teacher pay is number one. You know, I've been yelling and screaming since 2019 for Abbott to raise starting teacher pay at $60,000 and then a higher schedule for more teachers. I think that that's only equitable. I think that once we can get there, then we'll at least be on par with the rest of the nation. I mean, as it stands, our Texas teachers are paid $7,000 less than the national average, and our children are allotted $4,000 less per child. And it just is a slap in the face towards our worth here in Texas. So I think that's number one. And I think the second issue is fixing the TRS system. I mean, we have retired teachers
10 seconds.
that can't really retire, and the care is so bad they don't, you know, they're leaving the care system. So TRS is number 2.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. That was finishing up the minute that she had from the last one. Okay. So now I'm going to move on to the question that Miss Morgan Lamantia already answered. And this, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. This question is coming from Brownsville. Okay. If elected, are you willing to commit to quarterly meetings with TSTA locals in District 27?
Go ahead.
Yes. Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that that's, you know, the very least the state senator can do. You know, in my mind, the role of a senator is to be on the ground. I mean, not quarterly, but daily. I mean, we've got to be on the ground with the people, with the teachers, with our nurses, with our construction workers. We've got to be on the ground across the board. Otherwise, the state senator is gonna lose touch with what people are actually needing. So I think quarterly at the very least. But I think that, you know, if a state senator can run down to a board meeting, then the state senator runs down to a board meeting. You shouldn't have to wait until things get bad enough to where nobody can tolerate it. That's a sign that there's way too little work being done. If it's a steady stream of work with the people, then it avoids getting to this desperate situation that we find ourselves in so often. So yes, absolutely. Commit me to the quarterlies, commit me to the, you know, to the monthlies, whatever it is you guys do. I'm just a call away.
Great. Thank you. So since both of you answered similar to that, we're going to hold y'all to those meetings.
Hold it.
All right. So Miss Stapleton, you're the next in the rotation. This
All right.
question is also from Brownsville. What do you propose to do to improve teacher wages in Texas?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much hit the nail on the head with my prior answer. But look, the funding is there. When our state leaders and our senators and our state reps say, well, the funding just isn't there. That's not true. I mean, we have, on top of rainy day funds, we will be having an extra $18 billion in the next legislative session. The funding is there, but when our governor is spending ridiculous amounts of money on stuff that doesn't matter, then we have problems. We're just the state has not been prioritizing. And that's what we need is we need somebody in there that believes in transparency, as I do. I think that once we can see through some of the baloney that's put out there by some of our leaders, understand exactly where our state leaders are getting their funding and who they're giving money to, and we can close these loopholes that allow our politicians to get rich off the constituency, then we will see substantial change in stuff that matters, like teacher pay. But as long as we don't have transparency and our state leaders get to hide behind these veils and advance their own agendas and advance their own business opportunities, then we will never excel. And those are the times of the past. So I think the clear answer is transparency. We need it. That way we can move forward.
Thank you.
All right. Let me bring on Miss Lamantia. Okay. All right. Same question. Which I already forgot which one it was. Oh, what do you propose to do to improve teacher wages in Texas?
Right. So one of the things that we're seeing a lot right now and what's coming down from the state and from Abbott is attacks on our teachers and attacks on our public school system. We're seeing them coming after our teachers by trying to change the testing and make it harder and increase the cost of those testing, even though our teachers aren't being paid what they should be paid. We have our teachers and our retired teachers getting higher and higher premiums. We have Abbott right now trying to just recently announce that he's going to go after a Supreme Court case that requires we educate all kids in the state of Texas. So the attacks on our public schools need to stop. And in order to get that funding, even though we're going to a session with surplus, it's going to be a fight because clearly he's seen the public education system as a target. And we need to make sure that we get up there and we talk about the importance of our teachers and we bring all of our educators up to Austin and have them up there and talking and telling their stories and telling them how little money they take home. And from that money, they make sure they go out, buy supplies and make sure that their kids in their classrooms and their students have everything that they need to be able to succeed and to be able to continue and to be able to learn and have those critical thinking skills. We need every single one of you guys to talk and call your senators and your legislatures because it's going to be on a fight on our hands to make sure those surplus funds go into our public school system, that we're able to re-look at and analyze our formula funding, that we bring up the basic allotment for all of our school systems so that our school districts now have the funds to be able to increase that teacher pay. And I believe in local governance and making sure that we can make decisions on a local level. However, I also believe that sometimes we need to mandate teacher pay minimums or educator minimums to make sure that we hold all of our districts accountable, but we need to increase that teacher pay. And the key part of that is making sure that we can get the funds from the state to be able to be pushed towards public education and our education systems.
Thank you. Time's up. Okay. All right. Let me bring on. Oh, no, I'm not bringing her on. Hello. I'm bringing you on, Miss Ida. Sorry. I'm telling you, it's just one of those days.
Too many moving parts here.
Oh, wait. No, Morgan stays on for this one. Stapleton already answered the other one. Sorry. Okay. Next question. How can you improve the cost of living adjustment for retired education employees? This is from Harlingen.
So this is not an easy problem to fix, but I think one of the first steps we make is we implement a regular COLA. That's a cost of living allowance adjustment, a cost of living adjustment, because there hasn't been a cost of living adjustment for our retired teachers in over 20 years. That's 20 years. And with this year alone having sky high inflation and the cost of goods and the cost of gas services going up, and that compounded over 20 years just continues to limit and minimize what our teachers are living on. And they're living on set incomes. And that's not something that we can continue and prosper, because our teachers, our educators, when they came into the education system, when they started becoming teachers, they knew they weren't going to get paid what they were worth and paid what they're valued at, because they understood that there was a promise from us, from our community, from our state, that we would take care of them in retirement. And we have failed at that promise. And that starts with making sure that there is a COLA to get them up to date to where they should be, but also a continuing cost of living adjustment that goes in place after every year, so that they can continue to survive and live off of those retirement funds and live off of those pension funds. But the other aspect of that is looking at their premiums, because their healthcare is so expensive. I've sat down with many retired teachers and looked at their healthcare plan and looked at the exorbitant costs of their premiums. Recently, they did an adjustment to make sure that no retired teacher had an increase due to COVID, but that is too little, too late. There's so much more we can do. And when I talk about healthcare, I'm not talking figuratively. I've had hands-on experience working with our healthcare system and adjusting and making sure that we put innovative ideas to bring down our premium costs, but still expand benefits. So there are ways to do it. There are ways to take those steps. We just need someone with those innovative ideas and with the strength and the will to see them and carry them through.
Okay, thank you. All right. Let me bring on Miss Ida / Stapleton, and let me repeat the question. How can you improve the cost of living adjustment for retired education employees? This question is from Harlingen.
Yeah, so this is an easy problem to fix, right? All it needs is to be funded. And as it stands, it's an underfunded program. And it's like, the teachers are sent off on the retirement knowing that it's not funded and that it could fall through at any time. I mean, it's like having an airplane full of people saying, well, this airplane may or may not have wheels when we're landing. I mean, what kind of a satisfaction to our teachers does that provide? I mean, teachers are literally living in fear because they're not sure what their retirement's going to look like. And then let's look at the world around us. I mean, we all stop outside, go to the gas station and get gas, and we know how astronomical it is right now. The price of eggs, the price of, McDonald's is rising up the roof, while the cost of living has not been adjusted in nearly 2 decades. And when it was adjusted, it only allotted adjustment for a certain number of people. Not even everybody were privy to those changes. So yeah, I was asked not too long ago, well, do you think there should be a COLA every decade? And I nearly choked. A decade? I mean, we know the difference between the 80s and the 90s. That's Cyndi Lauper versus Backstreet Boys. I mean, it's worlds apart. I think that these need to be addressed yearly. Every time there's a session, we need to get in there, look at the numbers, and fight over the inflation rates. I mean, we know just today there is a shift in the Federal Reserve, and it's going to cause a huge spike in interest rates. I mean, how can our retired teachers retire when we're looking at the
10
world?
seconds.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I'm done.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, it's hard to gauge my time.
No, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I lifted the paper and it's not like you could see the 10 seconds. Sorry.
Okay, I'm gonna keep her on for the next question. Nelda's was the last one, right? So Marisa Lopez. Okay. Miss Stapleton, this question is from Marisa Lopez, one of the audience members, and it says, if elected, will special interest campaign funding influence your decision making? I'm going to press start.
I am so glad you asked that question. I am a huge believer in finance reform. I have made pledges to never take corporate PAC money, never have, never will. How can we possibly have a state senator that's going up to bat for us, the people, when we have big corporations holding their purse strings? We don't have a senator. We have a puppet, and we've had that. And we've had that for 30 years, and it simply doesn't work. As long as our state leaders are getting their pockets lined by special interests and by corporations, we will never move forward. I feel so strongly about this issue, and I think that it is the base of most of our evils. I think that, you know, when our leaders get into office and they get there to advance their own agendas in their own pocket, then we're left with corrupt politicians. You know, and we all know it, we all feel it, and we all have felt disenfranchised by the system. And so what do we need? We need campaign finance reform. We need to get big money out of politics. We need to get rid of these guys that are buying our senators for legislation that helps them and their companies. Those days are for the birds. We've had enough of that, and we are done being taken advantage of here in South Texas.
Thank you.
All right, let me bring on Miss Lamantia. All right, same question. If elected, will special interest campaign funding influence your decision making?
So that's an easy question to answer. The answer is no. You know, I am proud to be endorsed by organizations like the Parent PAC, which is a group of parents, educators, and special auxiliary groups that believe and support our public education system. I'm proud to be endorsed by Tex PAC, which is a group of doctors and medical professionals, and our Texas nurse practitioners, as well as our Texas firefighters, including the Brownsville and Harlingen Firefighters Department and Association, and our Texas Municipal Police Association and our Brownsville PD. These are wonderful organizations that are part of our community. They're all fabrics of our community and help us fight and make sure that our families have everything they need to continue with education, with safety, with healthcare. And that's what I want to do, fight for our families and fight for our communities. And I will make the exact same promise to you as I've made to all of my supporters. And I believe that's why I gained their support and gained their endorsements. And that is because I promise to always have an open door policy, to always into both sides of an argument, and to make the rational and correct decision that's in the best interest of those I represent, those here in District 27, throughout all 8 counties, to make sure that I always explain myself and am honest for my decisions. And if we disagree one day, that I will have that open door the next day so that we can continue those conversations and can continue to fight for our South Texas families, because that's what we're elected to do. And that's what I want to do if I can make it up to Austin, is to fight for what we need, because we know that here in South Texas, we always have to fight for what we deserve. We had to fight for a medical school. We had to fight for our universities, and we have to continue to fight for funds for our drainage and our infrastructure. And we're going to have to fight even harder this next session for our public education and for our educators. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I am going to leave you on the screen. You're the next in the rotation. And oops, let me take this one off. And the question is from Brownsville. What changes must take place for public and charter schools to be held? Actually, it's a 2-part, okay? What changes must take place for public and charter schools to be held to the same standards and accountability? And what is your plan to help accomplish this?
So what needs to change? The statutes around charter schools need to change. We need to make sure that they are held to the same standards that our public education is held to. And what we really need to do is that this is an opportunity to evaluate what those standards and requirements are. We need to make sure that if it's good for one student, it's good for all students. So if there's a program that our public education system has right and is doing and is working and it's helping our students grow and learn, those programs should be required for our charter schools as well. And if our legislature, if the TEA sees that charter schools are excelling because of a certain program, because of a certain requirement isn't there, whether that's their freedom to have calendars to fix and change their calendar day in their school year, then that needs to apply to all schools receiving public funding, including our public education system. We need to equalize that playing field, because what happened when a lot of these rules were passed was there were very few charter schools and no one expected it to blow up the way it has. And it's continued to grow, and it's continued to take school funding away from our public schools and away from our public school educators. And we need to make sure that we have certified teachers, that we have teachers that are able and have the lessons, have the qualifications to teach our kids. We also need to make sure that everyone receiving public school funds have the same requirements, the same transparency, and the same budgets and restrictions, and make sure that that's allowed and open to the public. You know, allowing charter schools to get more money per student per head and yet spend less per student than our public schools is not the way to go about it. Right now we have them competing against each other, and we have charter schools taking precious resources from our public school system and our educators, and it's not on a fair and equal basis. And we need to equalize that. Charter schools need to start following the same rules as our public education systems, and that starts with changing statutes and working with TEA. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let me bring on Ms. Stapleton / Ida. All right, let me get the question again. All right, this is the two-part question, Ms. Stapleton. It is, what changes must take place for public and charter schools to be held to the same standards and accountability? And what is your plan to help accomplish this?
Yeah, you know, I've been asked a similar question similar to this before, and I answered it one way before, and then I thought about it later, and I said, well, okay, holding the charter schools to the same accountability as the public schools. But when we're talking about the accountability, I mean, we're talking about the system that doesn't work. We're talking about the A through F system that doesn't work. We're talking about, you know, the testings of the students and the teachers having to teach to the test. That accountability system doesn't work. So I don't think the answer is equating our charter schools to the same standards as our public schools, because any public school teacher will tell you that that's not working. The A through S has got to go, and the testing has got to go. So it's not a matter of equalizing on a system that doesn't work. It's a matter of reimagining the entire system, reimagining what education here in Texas could be, being the leaders in the nation on a new way of education. Look, our teachers here in Texas are skilled. Many have been there for many, many years and have methods that are way far exceed this issue of teaching to the test. So, you know, as odd as that answer is, I think that that's the answer. It's not equalizing on a system that doesn't work. So how do we do it, right? How do we get in there and revamp the system? Well, we get people just like you and groups like you, and we, you know, yell and scream at our leaders, and we say, hey, these tests aren't working.
10 seconds.
The A through F system has failed us, and we refuse to move forward under those terms.
Thank you.
Man, Ida, you're doing awesome for not being able to multitask.
You have no idea how
I'm
much
so
stress.
proud of you, because I have forgotten to set the timer a couple times, and you're doing it all.
Yeah, I almost like muted Miss Stapleton.
Okay. All right. Ms. Stapleton, you are staying on for the next question. You're the next in the rotation.
Okay.
This question is from, I think this one was from Mercedes, I think. What is your plan to ensure there is equity in allocating funds for public and charter schools?
Yeah, I mean, we've got to do away with funding the charter schools, and the voucher system does not work. I mean, look, the charter schools, I can equate them to, let's say, Walmart, right? It's a corporation run by CEOs. There is not an elected board. So we need to let them exist as corporations. And that means no government funding. I mean, how can we possibly give our public tax dollars to Walmart? I mean, it's the same thing, right? It's like saying, okay, guys, we are going to tax all of you, and we're going to give it to Walmart. It's just, I mean, it's unfathomable that that's what's happening. But, you know, unfortunately, we have these charter school lobbyists that will easily give a candidate $100,000 per election cycle, and then that candidate gets into office with that $100,000 extra dollars and writes legislation to help these charter schools. I mean, it's nothing short of a racket. So no, we should not be. We have kids out there that can't even afford shoes, and it's like telling this, you know, 5-year-old child without shoes, hey, well, I'm sorry, we're going to take your tax dollars and give it to this big fancy charter school. It's just nothing short of broken and disheartening. And so the answer is we refuse, and we don't fund our Walmarts. And that's it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm bringing on Miss Lamantia. Okay, 1 second. Same question. What is your plan to ensure there is equity in allocating funds for public and charter schools?
Right. So we touched on this a little while earlier on the last question, but that has to do with firstly, the basic allotment. The basic allotment needs to be equalized. Right now, as it's currently set up, charter schools get about $1,600 per student more per head in their school system than our public school system does. And that's because they are being treated as small urban school districts. And that's not what they are. I mean, the charter school program down here in South Texas is bigger than the Corpus Christi School District. So treating them like they're a small, disenfranchised school is not what they are. That's not what we're talking about. They need to be under the same financial formula funding as our public schools and receiving the same basic allotment, not more, especially when under their own accounting systems. And when we've looked at it with their budgets, they spend less per student than our public school systems do. And they don't achieve any higher scores on their STAR testing than our public education schools do. So they're not achieving the goals that they were originally set up to achieve. We also need to make sure that we look at the cherry picking and the snapshots and being able to have a student leave their school mid-year, and yet they get to keep those funds. And that student goes to our public school and our school district, and yet our school district doesn't receive those funds. So they are continuously working at a deficit while the charter school is able to keep those funds and keep that extra money and that additional profit. We also need to make sure that our public education is being fully funded. And once our schools are fully funded, then we can start looking at innovation and innovative ideas. But right now, we are so far behind that position that we cannot continue to keep this benefit for our charter programs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm leaving you on the screen. You're next in the rotation. The question is from Brownsville. What is your stance on EdTPA? And do you, sorry, it's a two-part, okay? What is your stance on EdTPA? And do you feel this will be beneficial or detrimental for public education, and why?
Yes, so EdTPA is the new teacher certification program, right, that the TA is currently looking at. Currently, our teacher certification program is the PPR, which is a 100-question multiple choice test. Now, there's a lot of complaints and a lot of issues with the PPR, but the EdTPA is not the way to go. The EdTPA consists of a video portion, a essay portion, and then also a submission of a teacher plan. And the problem here is that the EdTPA was originally created to be an assessment tool to help in teacher programs and to help have consistent teaching practices. But what Texas is trying to use it as is a across the board certification. Are you going to be a good teacher or not? And the fact that it wasn't created to be that way, and that's not its purpose, is not the way we should be using it. The other thing is that there's only about 13 other states that are using it statewide as certification. 2 states have stopped using it entirely because they've seen that it disenfranchises and is at a it hurts those who take it who are of color, either blacks or Hispanics, do worse on this test than anyone else. And that is going to hurt us across the board in this state. The other thing is that it costs almost $195 more than our current test. And with as low pay as we currently give our teachers, that's something that our teachers just aren't going to be, we can't ask them to afford and to put more money when we're not willing to put any money behind them and back them. We are currently at a teacher shortage. We need more teachers. We have more and more teachers retiring. We have fewer substitutes coming back to the system, and we have fewer and fewer kids in the pipeline wanting to become educators and wanting to become teachers for our next generation. And this test is going to further impact that shortage. And that's something we can't have, and that's something we need to fight. And I hope we can get our teachers together and have that voice and make it heard up at TEA. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bringing you back on the screen, Miss Ida and Miss Stapleton. Okay, I'm going to repeat the question. It's a 2-part question. What is your stance on EdTPA, and do you feel this will be beneficial or detrimental for public education, and why?
Yeah, I think that the whole idea is preposterous, right? We are in a time in our lives, and the teachers are at a point in their careers where it's literally being called the mass exodus. I mean, we have waves and waves of teachers leaving the field, and people that, you know, have gone through all the schooling and all the certification and have taught for years are leaving because they're finding easier jobs that are more lucrative. And so at a time like this, when, you know, we have teachers leaving, we have packed classes because we have teacher shortage, and we have teachers that are, you know, not certified in one area having to hop over and you know, help out in other places because, you know, we have this lack of teachers. The most ironic thing that our government could do at this point, and the most counterproductive thing they could do, is exactly what they're doing with this change in the test. I mean, it's a direct hit to our public school education because our public schools are the ones that require certifications, not our charter school teachers. This is not qualified. So it is, again, another attack against our public school teachers. And it's been proven in other states to not work. I mean, it's failed in other states. So it's not like it's this fresh, new, innovative idea by our Texas leaders. It is a failed program that we're trying to implement. It is clearly not a test and not a move that has been put forth by the teachers.
10 seconds.
I mean, assuming somewhere down the road there is a corporation that will be making a ton of money off this test.
Thank you.
All right. Next, we have a question from the audience. And this is for Ms. Stapleton. You're the next in the rotation. And this is a 2-part question. How will you, as Senator, assist the Attorney General's office issues addressing the child support concerns? Texas children, regardless of which parent has custody, should come first.
Yeah, you know, that's a great question. It's hopefully we will have a new AG in our state office. Hopefully we have a new AG here from the Valley. That would be very exciting. But with that being said, yeah, look, I'm an attorney, and I've done some of this work before, and you know, it's extremely sad to see children being sort of thrown into the mix amongst, you know, battling parents and you know, having to deal with not having food on the table because, you know, one parent decides they're not going to support. What is the solution? I don't know what the solution is. I think that certainly it's not working, right? When we have somewhere, you know, if a non-custodial parent is not paying, then, you know, they'll throw them in jail for 30 days. But that doesn't really fix the problem, does it? I mean, I think the solution, and my idea of what the solution may be, is providing tools. I mean, providing tools for people, providing jobs for people, and allowing people to get back into the workforce. I mean, a lot of times people aren't paying their child support on purpose. They're in a situation where they can't. But if we can make the tools available to get people off the ground, get them in a working situation, then our Texas children will thrive. But without the jobs and without the education, we just can't get there. I think that those are the two pieces of the puzzle that can fix this problem.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to bring on Miss Lamantia. All right, same question. I thought it was a two-part. I made a mistake. It's only one. The second part was just a comment. I was like, there's still question mark at the end. How will you, as senator, assist the Attorney General's office issues addressing the child support concerns? Texas children, regardless of which parent has custody, should come first.
So I think this is a prime example of how, as a senator, we need to lean on those who are in this situation. We need to make sure that we have that open door policy so that we can understand every side's issues here and what their concerns are. Because, as I said, I can't be an expert on everything, but there are many attorneys in this field. There are family members who go through this every day that need help and assistance. And that is a great example of how we can reach out to all of those, understand both sides of the issues, understand the concerns of all those parties involved, and make sure that we come to the best and most rational decision with these cases. Because as the question poses, you know, what we're talking about here are our Texas children, and the child should always come first. And what's in the best interest of the child should be what we're fighting for, not one side or the other, but for the child. So understanding both sides, understanding the aspects, understanding what's involved, and making sure that legislation is written so that the child comes first and that everyone involved understands, and it's a rational and correct and logical point, and we come to this in agreement, I think is the best way to do it. But that involves leaning on my constituents and making sure that we talk to everybody and we understand the issue fully before we put in place a law, because the most important thing is understanding how the law is going to impact our families and how that law is going to impact the children that we're talking about in these situations. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Rocha, for that question. All right, I am going to be leaving you on the screen, Ms. Lamantia. You're next in the rotation, and this question is from Brownsville. There is an alarming number of educators leaving the profession. What do you plan to do to improve working conditions to recruit and retain educators?
So, you know, we talked a lot about increasing the pay rate for educators, making sure that they're being paid what they're valued at and the professionalism and what they require. But what we also need to talk about is respect. A lot of our teachers are leaving, not just because of salary and low pay, but because of the lack of respect that they're feeling from the community and lack of respect that they're getting from our state government as well. What we need to do is we need to make sure that the teachers know that they have our support. They have our support in Austin. Y'all have our support. All of you have our support from the community members as well, that we're there and that we want to make sure you have what you need to succeed. Because when our educators succeed and when our public schools succeed, that's our kids succeeding. That's our future succeeding and growing and becoming the next generation of leaders. So we need to make sure that we allow our teachers to do what they do best, and that's teach our kids. We shouldn't be micromanaging our educators, and we shouldn't be bringing politics into the classroom. We need to encourage that creative thinking. We need to encourage the passion that all of you bring to the classroom. We need to encourage that passion that you guys came into the field with as first time educators, and make sure that that grows and then it spreads to other kids that want to become educators. We need to make sure that y'all understand how important that you are, and that we are there to support you and to be there for you and to fight for you when you can't fight for yourselves. So we do need increased pay, but most importantly, we need to make sure that we respect and we honor our teachers every day, and not just during Teacher Appreciation Week, and not just during Teacher Appreciation Week, which so happens to fall the week before the STAR test. So not a lot of time for you guys to enjoy it, but I hope that's something else we can start to change. So thank you guys for everything that you do every day.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to bring on Miss Ida /Stapleton. All right. The question is, there is an alarming number of educators leaving the profession. What do you plan to do to improve working conditions to recruit and retain educators?
Yeah, so look, no teacher in the world has ever in their life said, hey, I want to become a teacher because I want to make a ton of money. That's not what we're seeing, right? Teachers go into teaching because they love it. They love the idea of, molding these minds of the future. But the answer is very simple. I mean, we just got to pay them, and what we're seeing instead is teachers that are having to put money out of their own pocket. I was sitting with a couple teachers the other day, and, one of them was extremely frustrated because there were no printers in the school. So they're having to figure out how to get all this material printed for the students, having to use their own money at Kinko's, and then finding another teacher friend that has a hidden printer in one of their offices. I mean, it's like some sort of underground sort of a hustle trying to figure out how to get your papers printed. It's the craziest thing. I mean, in the very least, our teachers should be able to be provided with the resources that they need for their children. Additionally, our teachers should not be putting in literally hundreds of extra hours per year after school on the weekends without pay. The example that I use is, I used to be a Subway sandwich worker, right? And I would make these footlong sandwiches all day long. But the second I clocked out, there would be no more sandwiches made for anybody because I had clocked out. And teaching is the only profession where we expect the teachers to continue making those sandwiches after hours. I mean, no wonder they're leaving. It's like saying, hey, we need to work 3 extra
10
shifts
seconds.
without pay. It's ludicrous, and any other field would not do it. We should not expect it of our teachers.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Stapleton, you get the next question. This question is coming from Alamo. What is your stance? Excuse me. What is your stance on student standardized testing?
Yeah, I mean, I described it a little bit earlier on reimagining what the system could look like. And to be quite frank, I don't think the testing is necessary. I think that there are other means of gauging whether our students are learning or not. I mean, let's talk about practicality, about practical life skills. I mean, those are the things that, a lot of our high school students come out of high school with and are lacking are practical skills, how to write a check and how to open a bank account. And those aren't things that are tested on. Those are just life skills. I mean, if we have our teachers in there not having to worry about a test, but critically thinking, all right, what could help this student in their near future? And then they teach it. I mean, can you imagine what our next generation may look like? It could be a game changer. It could be a game changer. I mean, this is a weird example, but the college that I went to was all based on written evaluations. There was no grading, no A, B, C, D. It was all written evaluations. And, I'm not saying that that's the way that we need to go, but it's an alternative. There are many alternatives that may work, but the testing system, I think, is proven time and time again just to be faulty. and another money-making scheme. And we're better than that.
Thank you.
Okay, let me bring on Miss Lamantia. Excuse me, same question. What is your stance on student standardized testing? This is from Alamo.
Right. So I think standardized testing has a role as one of many assessment tools for teachers to identify strengths and weaknesses in students and adjust accordingly. But it's time to stop using these standardized tests as a punishment, as a stick for schools and year. You know, standardized testing may have a role, but it's not the sole role. I mean, we are seeing higher education. They've never only used a standardized test. They've looked at so many other factors in reviewing and analyzing a student success and who they're going to choose to let into their schools. We've seen even some of the Ivy Leagues get rid of standardized testing altogether. And even with our own education board looking at getting rid of a standardized test like the PPR, because they want a more fully formed, or as they describe it, a fully formed image of what a teacher's skills are, they're getting away from standardized testing. And yet they're not allowing that same move and that same thought process to go with our school system. And let's be clear, we don't all start in the same place. Studies have shown that middle-income families, kids in middle-income families have personal at-home access to at least 13 books. And yet kids in lower-income families have probably access to about one book per 300 kids. And access to pre-K, access to after-school activities, and access to books are all factors that aren't considered and factors that aren't taken into account when we're talking about standardized testing. And there's a big difference between a failing school and a school that is set up to fail. We need assessment tools to measure both progress and needs, and we need accountability, but we also need to show our commitment to ensuring the success of every child and making sure that we understand that not everyone starts from the same place and that we take that into account and we don't use standardized testing as a punishment or as a stick anymore. And we find other ways to make sure that we can fund our schools.
Thank you. You're on mute.
Miss Stapleton already answered that one, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Then, Miss Lamantia, I'm leaving you on. You have the next question. This question is from Donna. What is your plan to limit class sizes from elementary through high school?
So this is a great example for how important it is to have that constant communication with our school districts, with our teacher organizations, and with the teachers in our communities, because they are the ones that truly understand at which grade levels you can have more or fewer kids. We have teacher limitations, student to teacher ratios requirements already in place, but our teachers are the one that understand if they can handle more or if they need to be able to have more time on an individual level with each kid. So having that open line of communication is going to be really important. But the other side of that coin is that having requirements where we have a teacher to student ratio in a time where we have such huge teacher shortages is going to punish our schools and punish our educators for a problem that they didn't create and that they can't fix. We need to come in as a state legislature. We need to come in as a community and start to adjust those teacher shortages, because until we have educators that can fill our classrooms and we have substitutes that can help and assist with those educators, and we have the support staff available to help with the additional paperwork and with all the workload, we're not going to be able to meet those goal levels of teacher to student ratios in our classrooms. So we need to fix the bigger problem at hand, which is teacher shortages. And then we need to get with our teachers and make sure that they have a seat at the table and that they know that they have a voice in Austin, so that they're the ones in the classrooms and they know what's best for their students. We have their input when we start looking at those teacher-student ratios and the students in the classrooms.
Thank you. Okay. Let me bring on Miss Ida / Stapleton. The question is from Donna. What is your plan to limit class sizes from elementary through high school?
Yeah, the plan is funding. I mean, it all boils down to funding. That's the fundamental thing that's missing in all of these questions is funding. If it's funded, then we can have smaller class sizes. I mean, it's such a simple problem to fix. The problem is all the bureaucracy is getting in the way. But if we fund it, which we can, then you automatically can have smaller class sizes. If you pay your teachers, and you can, we automatically have smaller class sizes. I mean, you know, when people tell us, well, there's all these obstacles in the way, and that's why it hasn't happened, and this and that, you know, those aren't the real obstacles. The answer is funding. Pay our teachers, have more teachers, therefore smaller class sizes. And we know that with smaller class sizes, our children do better. I mean, you talk to any teacher, no teacher is going to say, oh, yes, you know, give me a huge class size. I think that'll be beneficial to all of my students. And, you know, I'll be a much happier teacher with a huge class. No, I mean, that's crazy, right? We all know what the solution is and how to get there. And we need someone in this seat that'll advocate for it and amplify your voices as much as we can. I mean, this is not an issue that we roll over and just, you know, and let slide by. I mean, we're talking writing petitions and having protests. I mean, that's sometimes the route that it has to take. But that's the route we got to take, and it can be accomplished. We just need the funding.
Thank you.
All right. I have a question from the audience.
I think that's kind of already been covered, that question. Okay. It's similar to the one before, in my opinion. I don't know what you think.
I mean, I did feel like it was similar.
Yeah.
What do you think about this one?
I think also it's very similar. So, I mean, it's great. They're great questions, but we've already kind of covered that. So I don't know if you want to give them, move on to the closing comments.
Yes, do that. And so how do we do this? The same person that started, or do
no,
we
I think we can let Miss Sarah go first, since it was the other way. So, Sarah, you'll have, do I still have you here? Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah.
You'll have 2 minutes to do your closing statements.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for having me here. I am so sorry for my technical difficulties. Number 3 on my list of things that I want to change are broadband access. I'm kidding about that, but it is an issue, right? I think we all have seen that here today. But from a prior teacher to a current teacher, I think you guys, y'all fight the good fight, and you know, y'all are the ones that have stuck it out through hard times. And, you know, the times of real trial and error. I mean, think about it. Our recent teachers have gotten us through financial crises, through pandemics, through freezes. And when all hell is breaking loose around us, the teachers are the ones that are the glue that hold our communities together. And we couldn't have done it without you. You know, as a mom of 3 children, school-age children, you know, you got us through some hard times, you know, via the pandemic and the Zoom. And I thank you, and I would be proud as ever to be your mouthpiece and your next state senator. So I ask you to champion and rally behind me, and let's make history together, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to bring on Miss Lamantia. You'll have your 2 minutes, and I will mute, because if my dogs start barking, so will Ida's, and then it's going to be an issue.
And then mine will join in.
It's going to be a choir.
Okay, go ahead.
So thank you again so much for the opportunity to talk to all of you and your organization, but also to answer your questions. And I know y'all's time is precious. You're in the middle of Teacher Appreciation Week and taking the time to come out and talk to us as candidates, but also while you're preparing for standardized testing. I really appreciate y'all's time and every effort and everything that you guys put into it every day. You know, during the pandemic, we saw you guys, all of our educators, put it all on the line. We saw y'all pivot on a dime to a new teaching format and create new lesson plans overnight. And because of that, our students, our families here in the Rio Grande Valley, they excelled. There's studies done where they showed that our Rio Grande Valley schools were the most pandemic resilient. And they pinpointed that to our educators, to what y'all did, to how well and how far y'all went to make sure our kids got the education that they needed. And the least that we owe you now, and in return for all your work, is to go up to Austin, make sure we fight to support you. We fight to make sure that you guys get the respect you deserve, that we increase teacher pay, that you have the support from your auxiliary staff, that we make sure that you have that support staff to help you with that paperwork, that we lessen the paperwork and reevaluate those requirements, and that you know that you have a voice in Austin, and that we are here to fight for our educators, here to fight for our auxiliary staff, here to fight for our public school system. You know, my grandfather taught me when he established a scholarship program just how important education is to our community. And that's not just higher education. That's our K through 12. That's our pre-K as well. And how important each step is to the continuation and the advancement and the growing of our families and getting rid of that intergenerational poverty. So thank y'all for all that you do. And I hope every single one of you remember to go out and vote. And I hope I can earn your vote. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we thank you both again for your time and everything. We know you have a lot going on for this runoff. So we really appreciate you giving us an hour and a half to our viewers. What's good about this show is that they're able to see it later also, and we send the link to our members. So that way it encourages them. And again, early voting starts when? When is that?
May 16th to May 20th, Monday through Friday, no weekends.
It's only going to be 1 week, guys. So that's a big difference compared to your regular election. So there's only 1 week of early voting. Okay. So we hope that everybody goes out to vote. And we hope that this helped to give some people who were undecisive or not sure which way to go. It's a very important race. It's two, this is for the Democratic seat. Both of these ladies are amazing, very well informed. So we are very, very grateful for their time that they did here. But it's an important seat that we must win. We must keep this seat because they're trying to flip it, and we need this help for public education. We really do. So again, we thank you all. We thank our viewers. And I think that's it. We're done for now.
Just real quick before we log out, I just wanted to say, can you hear me?
Yes.
That whether you voted or not in the last election, oh my God, help me with the word. Primary, that does not matter. This is a whole new thing. So don't think that your vote from last time carries over. This is a whole new election. This is a whole new early voting. So yes, you have to go again. The last one doesn't count. Please, please, please get out the vote. Take family with you. Make your voice heard. As Ida mentioned, this is a very important election to public education. And we need to keep this seat. So thank you so much to the ladies for joining us. Thank you so much for letting us know what you stand for. Thank you so much for committing to meetings with us, because like Ida said, we will be stalking you and holding you to your word. So I just wanted to make sure to stress your last vote didn't count, doesn't count anymore. It's a new vote. So make sure you get out the vote.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much again for joining us, and have a very wonderful evening to all.
Thank you, ladies, and good luck.
Yes. Good night.
Bye-bye.
All right, Miss Ida.
All right.
Forum. Thank
So,
you to
yes.
everybody who stuck around with us. We're at about an hour and 34 minutes. I'm very grateful that we had these two ladies come on and speak to us and answer questions, including the ones from the audience. Those were some really good questions. Like I said, guys, please get out and vote. This is a very important election. We really need to keep this seat a Democratic seat, and we're looking forward to good things to come. Miss Ida?
Yes, I think what was important, it was good to hear of their support for public education. So, they both see the crisis of what public education is facing right now. So that was very reassuring to us. So it's very important that we get a good Democrat person in there. So I hope it helped to inform some people and to make a better decision. And now that they know that they do have to go out and vote, and because public education needs a lot of support, and we need to have the right people in office, because just like we've mentioned, all these different things, this ed TPA that they're trying to bring in, these are things that can continue to hurt us. And we cannot continue to take these punches and jabs at public education. So it's a very important seat. Please go out and vote. And like Vero mentioned, just because you voted before, it doesn't mean you don't have to go out and vote this time. It is very important, and you're only going to have 1 week to be able to get out and do the early voting. And then election day, I believe she said, was on the 24th, I believe. I'm not sure. But we will be posting that on our Facebook as well. So it was a good show, and all this multitasking really wore me out.
Hey man, you did better than me. I kept forgetting that I already asked that one the question. I even tried to put it at the top to clear out the ones from the top to try to help me remember, and then I was like, oh, did they already both answer this question? Oh, I'm tired. I'm tired.
No, you did great. So thank you so much for everything.
Yes. Everybody have a wonderful evening. Happy Cinco de Mayo and happy Teacher Appreciation Week. Please remember, AOBE appreciates everything you do and what you stand for. And we are here for whatever you may need. Thank you so much and have a wonderful evening, everybody. Good night.
All right.